This video is on the 30, 60, 90 special right triangle. It is the second of the special right triangles that we're going to study. This triangle is different than the 45, 45, 90 because the legs are not the same length. Therefore, the ratio of the legs to the hypotenuse is also different. The ratio in this triangle is 1 to square root of 3 to 2. There are also parts in this triangle that are different. In the 45, 45, you had two legs with the same length. In this triangle, we do not have the same length, as I said earlier. Across from the 30 degree, you have what's known as the short leg. So if I draw this in, this is known as our short leg. Across from our 60, we have what's known as the long leg. And of course, the hypotenuse is still opposite our right angle. So our sides are short, long, and hypotenuse. That brings us back to the ratio. The 1 is what corresponds to the short leg. The square root of 3 is what corresponds to the long leg. And the 2 is what corresponds to the hypotenuse. In formulas, this means that if I take the short times the square root of 3, I will have the long leg. If I take the short times 2, I will have the hypotenuse. In simple words, the hypotenuse is twice the length of the short. The long is the square root of 3 times the length of the short. If I want to put ratios on the triangle, it would look like this. 1x for the short, square root of 3x for the long, and 2x for the hypotenuse. Okay, so basically everything is based on the short leg. Let's go through an example. In my first example, I have x across from the 60. This is the long leg. I always identify my sides. I have 10 across from the 30. This is my short side. And I have y across from the right angle. This is my hypotenuse. Now I'm going to approach this using the formulas or the ratios. I'll try to do both or speak about both as I'm working. I have the short leg. According to the formulas or the ratio, if I take the short and I multiply it by square root of 3, I will have the long leg. That is the ratio 1 to square root of 3. So I'm going to take my 10, which is my short leg, I'm going to multiply it by square root of 3, and I will have x. So basically x is 10 square root of 3 centimeters. I'm also going to do the hypotenuse, and that is a 1, repeat that again, to 2 ratio. So if I take my short and I multiply it by 2, I will have my hypotenuse. And so 10 times 2 will equal y. 10 times 2 is 20, so 20 centimeters is the length of my hypotenuse, which is y. Let's go to the next example. In this example, y is across from my 30, so y is my short. X is across from my 60, so it's my long. And 18 is across from the right angle, it's my hypotenuse. Now if I look at my ratios, the only place I can really go for my hypotenuse is to my short because it's a 1 to 2 ratio. That means that the short times 2 is the hypotenuse. So basically I need to get shorter, smaller. Smaller means division, so I'm going to be taking my 2 times my y, because y is my short, equal 18. And so I'm going to divide by 2. So y is 9 centimeters. That's half of my hypotenuse. Now that I have my short side at 9 centimeters, I'm going to take the 9 centimeters and I'm going to times it by the square root of 3 to get the long, because the formula says that if I take the short times the square root of 3, I will get the long. This, remember, was the 1 to square root of 3 ratio. So 9 is my short times square root of 3. It will equal my x. So 9 times the square root of 3 is 9 square root of 3 centimeters is equal to x. And I can combine or look at the ratio. 9 to 9 square root of 3 is 1 to square root of 3. 9 to 18 is 1 to 2 as a ratio. Example number 3. Once again, I look directly across from the 30. That's going to be my short side. I look across to this from the 60. That's my long side. And across from the right angle is my hypotenuse. Okay, my given information is again the hypotenuse. The only place to go from the hypotenuse is the short leg. Remember, that's a 1 to 2 ratio between the short and the hypotenuse. The formula says short times 2 equal hypotenuse. Basically, that means if I take my hypotenuse and divide by 2, I'm going to have my short leg. So I'm going to fill in my information. The short leg is x, so I have 2x equal 15. I divide by 2. I'm cutting the hypotenuse in half. X is 15 halves. Leave it as a fraction. Do not turn it to a decimal. The reason is because we're going to mix this with a square root, and we don't want any decimals with our square roots. So my short leg is 15 over 2 centimeters. And I'm going to be working in centimeters just to make it easy. Now what I need to do is take my short times the square root of 3 to get the long, because that's the 1 to square root of 3 ratio. The short was 15 over 2. I'm going to multiply that by square root of 3, and it will equal my y. Now keep in mind that that square root of 3 is over 1. That helps you with your radicals. And so now I'm going to take the 15 times square root of 3 and get 15 square root of 3. 2 times 1 is 2. So I get 15 square root of 3 over 2. And I'm going to check 15 over 2 doesn't reduce as a fraction. So 15 over square root of 3, or 15 square root of 3 over 2 centimeters is my long leg. Example 4. Okay, I'm going to go through and identify again my sides. So across from the 60 is a long leg. Across from the 30 is my short leg. And across from the right angle is my hypotenuse. And once again, I need to find my short and my long, or hypotenuse. I have the long this time. That means I'm going to have to go back to the short because everything is based on the short side. So remember, the formula said the short times square root of 3 equal the long. That's that 1 to square root of 3 ratio. So I'm going to plug in my numbers. X is the short, so I have the square root of 3x equal the long, which is 24. Now what I need to do is I need to divide by the square root of each side, on the square root of 3 on each side, so that I can get x by itself. On the left side, the square roots of 3 cancel, I just get x. But over here, I have 24 over the square root of 3. And remember, you can never leave a square root in the denominator, so I'm going to rationalize top and bottom by square root of 3. When I do that, I get 24 square roots of 3 over the square root of 9. and the square root of 9 is 3. So I'm going to have 24 square root of 3 over 3. The 24 over 3, this simplifies. This simplifies down to 8. So I really have 8 square root of 3 centimeters is my x value. This is my short leg. That's going right here, 8 square root of 3. Now what I need to do is find my hypotenuse using my short leg. So I'm going to go over here and do that. My hypotenuse is 2 times my short leg. So I'm going to take my short leg, I'm going to times it by 2, and I'll get my hypotenuse. It's always double, and you can do that in your head if you'd like. So I'm going to take 8 square roots of 3. I'm going to multiply it by 2, and I'm going to get my y. 8 square roots of 3 times 2 is 16 square roots of 3, and that's my y, and that's in centimeters. And now I have my hypotenuse. Okay, a couple more examples and we'll be finished. And keep in mind you can stop at any time and attempt these on your own and then come back and check your questions. Or you can watch the whole video and then go back and try and do them by yourself if you would like. Remember, you can always pause the video. Alright, in example 5, directly across from the 30 I have my short leg. Directly across from the 60 I have my long leg. And directly across from the 90 I have my hypotenuse. And my given information seems to be the long leg again. So I'm going to use the ratio of 1 to square root of 3, or the formula that says short times square root of 3 equal long. Either one. Okay, so I'm going to take my short, which is x, times the square root of 3, and it will equal 12 square roots of 5, because that's my long. I'm going to divide both sides by the square root of 3, and the square roots of 3 will cancel and I'll get x. And now I have to look at this piece. Looks like I'm going to have to rationalize because I have a square root of 3 in the denominator, so multiplying top and bottom by square root of 3. And so I get 12 square roots of 15 over the square root of 9 again. Keep in mind that the square root of 9 does simplify down to 3, so I have 12 square roots of 15 over 3. It looks like my fraction will reduce. 12 over 3 simplifies to simple 4, so x equal 4 square roots of 15. And the square root of 15 doesn't simplify. It's made from 3 and 5, so no perfect squares. So 4 square roots of 15 centimeters is my short leg. Now I need to move from my short to my hypotenuse. To do that, I take the short, I take it times 2 for the hypotenuse. Remember, the hypotenuse is twice the length of the short leg. So I'm taking my 4 square roots of 15, because that's my short leg. So 4 square roots of 15 times 2 will equal y. 4 square roots of 15 times 2 is 8 square roots of 15. And that's my y, and that's in centimeters. This concludes our video on 30, 60, 90 triangles. If you would like more help, please stop in and see your teacher.